Brother, please let us know for last thoughts, our listeners live and on podcast.
All right, we know that I do joke quite often about my attempted escapes from the psych ward, but in all seriousness, the psych ward gang is seriously my idea of representing the military. Representing mental health in the military community. So if you happen to run into any type of mental health crisis or emergency, do not be ashamed nor afraid to dial 988, press option 1. Again, just as I had to do when I was in a moment of crisis, do not be ashamed nor afraid to dial the digits 988, then press option 1 if you find yourself in a similar mental health crisis.
Hey, what's happening? Welcome to episode 117 of the WarDawg Trail podcast. I'm here with my main man, Grim 0311. How you doing today, bro?
Good. What's going on?
I'm chilling, bro. We Sunday morning relaxing, bro. You know how it is. But we got a real good conversation today, though, bro. We're gonna get into the nitty-gritty of some things. Might be controversial, but we're gonna put some truths out there with some great brothers that we had this morning.
All right, sounds good.
All right. First off, let's go in today's announcements. You can visit our website, sergeantwardawgtv.com, as well as the Facebook page, the YouTube channel, and the Instagram page, Sergeant WarDawg TV. Okay, my book, the same name as this podcast, The WarDawg Trail, a Marine rifleman's struggle with war and PTSD, which highlights Grim 0311 and myself during 3 tours in Iraq as Marine infantry riflemen. That's including the very first day of the Iraq War. That's including going through Baghdad and Fallujah. That's now available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Walmart, and Books A Million. All right, our nonprofit, campdoghouse.org, is now available at our nonprofit in Central Florida can now be found at campdoghouse.org. All right, so take a look at what we have going in Central Florida to try to alleviate the homeless veterans crisis. We've owned the land now for 5 years, but we're still trying to make progress towards getting the RVs and the housing out there on that land. Okay, we are now brand ambassadors for Reaper Apparel Co. So you can use our code Sergeant WarDawg TV for 10% off your order at Reaper Apparel Co. All right, we are also brand ambassadors for Hyperion Munitions. So when you see us broadcasting anything about companies like T6 Firearms, Oriskany Arms, Veteran Ammo, or the Precise Trigger Control, you know that we are representing Hyperion Munitions. Last year, we won 2 awards, 2 global awards. The first was from Corporate Livewire. We won Veteran Support Nonprofit Organization of the Year. Now, this year, 2024, we've already won 2 awards from Global Health and Pharma for the Mental Health Awards 2024. We won Best Veteran Mental Health Awareness Network for 2024. Also, from Acquisition International Magazine in the UK, we won Veteran Welfare Outreach Nonprofit Organization of the Year for 2024. Remember, you can catch me on Saturday nights, every Saturday night at 8 p.m. on DV Radio. That's Dysfunctional Veterans Radio. You can be found at dvradio.net, where we have their Barracks Talk podcast, where we talk and joke and get just as dark and dark humored as we did back in the barracks in the military. That's every Saturday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time at dvradio.net, Dysfunctional Veterans Radio. All right, these are the outlets that you can find the audio podcast on. That's Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Amazon Music, as well as the outlets for the video podcast. MBR Radio every Wednesday at 1 p.m., as well as Facebook and YouTube. Be sure to catch our Military Ballers segment on the WarDawg Trail podcast, where we highlight unsung heroes from the military that are that we think are dope, man, that have dope and amazing stories and sacrifices that we wanted to highlight on the show. All right, as always, this is a WarDawg Trail podcast. This is now episode 116. And ladies and gentlemen, for the very first time, as a group of all four of us, I now welcome to the stage what I'm calling for this Sunday until we come up with a different name, the Brunch with Bros. All right. I welcome Refrigerator Q, as well as the owner and host of Black Powder Podcast. You go ahead and say your name, though. I don't want to mess that up.
Yasuke Fett.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Now, we are now introducing to the world that we are four brothers in the 2A industry that feel some kind of way about certain things in the industry. All right. Things that we have seen, heard, noticed firsthand. We're going to talk about that when you see the four of us get together. All right. Now, namely, the topic that we want to talk about today is the treatment of Black influencers and Black content creators. All right. On a totally different day, we might dive into the treatment of Black veterans. But today, and strictly today, during our first meeting together, we want to talk about the treatment in the 2A gun industry of Black content creators and Black influencers. All right. Anybody want to start us off?
I think we call it bacon and bullets.
I mean, that brunch bros, brunch with the bros, bacon and bullets, whatever y'all want to call it. I'm just here for the content.
All right, that's what's up.
That's bacon
content and conversation.
That's what's up.
Right.
I'm gonna tell you what I noticed. All right. Oh, I'm sorry. You got something to say, Grim 03? 0311?
Yeah. Hey, slightly before we get started. I mean, I know, majority of the people know y'all, man. Hey, but how long have you all been in the 2A industry?
Shoot. I myself, I'm trying to get more involved, but I've been interested in the Second Amendment and involved in the Second Amendment since 2018, I want to say. And
okay.
Yeah, I don't have like any veteran experience or anything. I always tell everybody I'm like still learning, so I'm not a professional, if you will.
Right.
My situation actually stemmed from when I got divorced in 2017.
Right.
I wasn't sure what the situation of my household was going to be because I was the only one in there, and I wasn't sure if she was going to try and send her family over or whatnot. I mean, not saying she would, not saying she wouldn't. It was just like a tense situation. So I ended up purchasing my first firearm, which was a Mossberg 88, just to protect myself. And ever since then, I've been more involved in it.
That's what's up.
Okay. Learning and becoming more professional and responsible.
Yeah. And on top of that, it's like I got a lot of respect for a lot of fathers who are actually going through that mess because like custody exchanges and everything, that's the best time for you to be using situational awareness because you don't know what's going to happen. There's been several stories out there about dudes that have been shot by the significant other of their the ex or whatever, all because of feelings. So I'll talk about stuff like that and a whole multitude of other topics as well.
Right. So refrigerator Q, man, how long you been in the 2A?
So me, as far as like my first firearm, I purchased as a college graduation gift to myself back in 2009. Um, so from there, just having an interest in firearms and in mechanics. Um, about 3 years ago, I decided that I wanted to start a gunsmith and an FFL. So for about 3 years, a little bit more because of the research and things like that it took for me to kind of get started. But my business actually opened its doors about 3 years ago.
Okay, good deal, good deal. And
Yeah, for
again,
those that don't know,
yeah.
yeah, for those that don't know, a gunsmith is like a mechanic for firearms, and an FFL is a federal firearms license. So that license allows me to do transfers. I also, buy and sell and help others with the transfer of firearms from one person to another person, or from one company or entity to another company, or to a person. So,
Okay, cool. Now,
Hey, Grimo 311, you want to let them know about your new company, D3 Armory, with your FFL?
Yeah. I started. I just got my FFL license.
congratulations.
Like last
Nice.
year. So I'm still trying to put everything together. Check it out. See what's make sure I check all those dots and. But yeah, man. D3 Armory. Man, I don't have a logo or nothing like that for it. Right now. Right now, I said, I like to get into stuff early and just kind of learn the industry from that side, man. I've always been into firearms and everything ever since, man, even before I went to Marine Corps. Shoot, I got like 12 uncles, man. They all hunt, and more than half of them was in the military. Grandfather was in the military, so I've always been, dealing with firearms and stuff like that, but professionally since like, 2002. And then yeah, man, I just I've done some armory work. I built a couple of rifles, modified some stuff, and that's how you really start learning, man. You really start learning about this stuff. You start getting into it like that. Yeah, man. I figured I'd get into the FFL and as an extension to my security company and the firearms training that I do on the side.
Nice.
Hey, now let's let everybody know. Both of you are in the. I know you're in Georgia, but is it both ATL? Both of them in the Atlanta area?
Yeah,
I mean,
I say it'd be easy just to claim Atlanta. I mean, technically, I'm in Decatur. My business is in Austell, but I consider myself a Metro Atlantean.
same here. I mean, as long as you got a car, you in Atlanta. You ain't got a car in Atlanta, you
That's
ain't got
right.
nothing. You know?
Right. Yeah, me personally, I was born and raised in Decatur, so I'm not a transplant. Been in the Metro Atlanta area pretty much all my life, outside of my my years in college and the first few years after college before I moved back.
All right.
I was transplanted.
It's all right, man. We still love you just the same.
Right
cool.
on. Right on.
Yeah, man. Let's man, what I want to say, man. To kind of jump into it and shit, man. I know, first off, I know a lot of people when people be, they talk about certain controversial topics and stuff like that, man. There'll be a lot of people that want to look at, especially no matter who it comes from, and be like, man, they always complaining and stuff like that. They don't, they don't see the side of it.
Yeah.
They don't see it from the point of view of and the perspective of the person that's bringing up the topics, and one thing I kind of equated to, I guess you could say, like, people that's in a relationship, try to bringing up topics in a relationship if there's an issue, no one really wants to start talking about it, but it's there, and I know all of us, in the two-way community, instructors, FFL, even just dabbling in the two-way industry, trying to build up, we've all experienced something. We've all experienced something from the other side, that, we probably don't realize it right off back, but then after a while, you start seeing patterns. And then you start being like, yo, what's up with this? And you put it aside, you put it aside in your mind, and you keep trying to strive forward and stuff like that. But then after a while, it get to the point to where it's like, yo, this is crazy. It's ridiculous. As a brother, as a black man, woman, adult, you don't want to think about it, but you still, it's there. It's there, especially in the two-way community, as a black person. There's been a lot of things throughout history, that we try to overcome, and there's a lot of people that say, hey, why don't you get out there and learn to be responsible, and over the past few years, especially since COVID, and you've had a lot of black people getting out there, getting into the two-way community, picking up guns, learning, educating themselves, and it's still there. You kind of see it even more now, so because now you have guns in the hands of black individuals, and not going out there doing crime, training, and but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that's one of my biggest focuses right now. When it comes to the two-way space and what I consider, I'll say, my community. For many years, there's been this kind of focus in the media on the negativity of African American gun ownership. And so, one of my focuses is just to kind of help change that narrative so that, people understand, first of all, within our community, that it is okay. We have the right to own firearms. Specifically, just like we have the right to vote or any other right, First Amendment, Second Amendment, whatever, we have these rights, and we have to. That's the first thing we have to get in our mind and our community. Like even myself, my mother is one of my, for her, it's she wants me to be successful, but she's not a fan of guns in any way. She's definitely, come up in an era where it was criminals with guns and police with guns, and that's it. That's all she understands. The criminals have guns because they want to hurt us. The cops have guns because they're here to help us. And for her, anything outside of that sounds unfamiliar and uncomfortable. And so that's the first thing I think, because when we talk about the two-way community, yeah, true, there's some differences, we may even want to say racism within the two-way space, but that's just American life. Most of us as young black men, we've experienced it in all parts of our life, from just social aspects to at your job. It's always some kind of BS that's kind of, sometimes it's systemic, and it's not even known or meant to, like, it's not that people are personally going out of their way to be racist. Sometimes it's just built into the system. But I think the start of it all is just for our community to understand that we have the rights as American citizens, to do certain things. And to me, that's where we got to kind of start the process of healing and understanding that, we do have these rights. And once we as a community kind of respect and support each other, it'll make it a lot more, a lot easier across the board.
Right.
Well,
And that was one of the things where I started off asking, like experiences, how people got into. Man, everybody gets into it for different reasons and stuff, and it's never too late. It's never too late to when you do, because there are a lot of people, man, regardless, are just afraid of fire. They can see the benefit in them, but they may not touch. Man, I know many people who approach me all the time, but like, yeah, I have a gun. It's been in my closet forever. I ain't never touched it.
Yeah,
Can we go to the range? And those are the mainly the people I deal with as far as training outside of like actual security, security professionals and EP professionals and stuff. But it's never too late. It's never too late, to get in. There's a lot of us to think that the negativity of it, but especially being Black, we always have to, we have to be a little bit more. We really have to further that education because we have to show. We can't just be out there blasting and stuff like that, because it does kind of give off a little negative, little negative view, and it doesn't help. It doesn't help when other people like, man, I really want to get into that, man, but that seems unsafe. It's never too late.
Yeah, it does definitely seem like a theme that we're hearing across the board. It's like, these folks is unsafe,
Yeah.
Well, that's also. I mean, I hear what you're saying as far as like it's never too late, but at the end of the day, man, you got to look at how things have been patterned towards Black society and firearms. Because initially, after the quote unquote freedom of slaves, if you will, which was a political move. It wasn't it wasn't a move to actually be positive towards Black people. It was a political move, but nonetheless, after the whole freedom of slaves, most people think that, oh, okay, cool, they got their paperwork, they got their house, they were left alone. No, there's a lot more to it. In order to maintain that freedom, they had to protect themselves somehow, which meant that they had a gun. Some people have more than one gun. Fannie Lou Hammer, I think her name was quoted saying that she had a shotgun in all four corners of her house. I ain't gonna say the rest of the quote because it ain't too nice, but nonetheless, that lets you know the mentality of people around that time period in firearms. So then you move towards like the whole the Black Panther movement and the March on Washington, the White House. You got a lot of people that woke up. That's actually where we got, I believe, the NRA from, and probably a whole bunch of other alphabet groups. So because of that, we lost sight of our rights, especially seeing as how we were, whether we were indigenous people or we were brought here, whatever the historical lineage is, we didn't have a chance to actually exercise the rights that we had been granted access to. In a sense, we had the access to it all along, but it was twisted access. It was controlled access. Because if you look at what happened after the Black Panther movement and whenever they marched on Washington, you started seeing a whole lot of demonization of Black people and firearms. So you'll look up and the church is actually speaking against firearms. So, you got a lot of older people speaking against firearms to the point where it was demonized in Black society. But yet on the opposite side of that, you got movies and media and all sorts of other stuff, which we never really fully owned whenever it comes down to our own Black reflection, Black image, that are taking that same image and demonizing, Black people on the silver screens or in books, media. And it wasn't even just here; it was also over in Japan too. Because if you look at certain of the certain anime and how they portray Black people, that lets you realize, okay, so the influence that happened over here in America has now spread from America to other countries, and that's how they see us. So now, whenever we are and to your point, whenever you said it's never too late. Now all of a sudden, we got tense presidential elections. We got a disease that we've never dealt with before, and we've got the racial tension from George Floyd and several other things that have gone on since 2020, to the point where now all of a sudden it clicks and people, Black people, are like, I need a gun. I don't know what's going to happen. I need a gun. But what would have happened if like that whole fear that caused people to get that firearm in the first place would have actually played out? Now you've got a whole group of people that don't have access to anything that can potentially protect them, because we were taught that as long as you pray away the evil, everything will be okay. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with praying, but at the end of the day, if you're praying and you're not putting forth that action, what good is it? Because you got to put in
Say
something
faith
too.
without works.
is death or is
Oh, yeah.
dead. Yeah, but you can to the whole systemic racism thing, man. You know the quote on what Fred said. If you look at how, like I said, our image is portrayed, even on YouTube, our image isn't really portrayed the way it should be because you could have a brother out there that's like trying to show somebody how to do something positive, how to protect themselves, how to do a certain drill or whatever, and they'll stash that video right down. You know, the same thing. The same thing happens on the opposite side in let's say the white YouTuber stuff. But every now and then you'll see stuff kind of trickle over there with no issue. They just check mark it and keep it going. But
Mm-hmm.
in our
Yeah, that's one of
society,
my biggest issues.
yeah, if if we were to do this kind of like a similar video in the same vein as like somebody who's white that does a video, because they have to keep pushing the narrative and demonizing black people still, they
Mm-hmm.
will tear that video down immediately. But yet, whenever you got somebody by like I don't know, John Wick Rambo 375 or Real Rambo 272 or whatever the name is,
Yeah.
you know, they'll keep that video up because it suits their narrative.
Oh yeah. Oh
And
yeah. Y'all seen it?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've seen that a lot.
it's
You know, as
it,
podcasters, you know, I know you know. We, you know, when
yeah.
you get on a podcast with another black person, another minority, it's always, hey man, yo, put the gun down, You can't show the gun on there.
Yeah,
But then it's like, you know, you have another conversation. It's like, yo, like we was doing a podcast with so and so or so doing the podcast, and they were playing with guns the entire time. Like, how the hell this shit still up? It's
Yeah,
crazy.
it is definitely very confusing, man. It's definitely very confusing, and that's a great. I think that's a great lead in to kind of get us back to the topic about, you know, influencers in the two-way space. Now, across the board, I noticed that, you know, none of the social media platforms are really big on, you know, gun content. But it's definitely disheartening when you spend a lot of time and effort, you know, making this content. And for me, especially what I'm seeing on Instagram is that, you know, if I'm not paying to boost these ads, if I'm not clicked or linked, you know, to the right other influencers, the algorithm definitely hides, you know, what we call, you know, blackball or shadow ban, you know, your content, you know. And so that's the thing that's really frustrating is, you know, especially with dealing with these companies, a lot of the companies are very much focused on an influencer's numbers, how many followers you have, how many subscribers you have. And you know, a lot of times we see, you know, some of these influencers with really big numbers, and it's like, how do your numbers get that big? But then when they're getting product, you don't really see a lot of it. You know, like it just doesn't always, to me, it doesn't always seem to match.
Yeah.
And I don't know, you know, really where that's coming from.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
I want
that whole. Oh, go ahead. My bad, man.
Nah, you go ahead, bro.
Well, I was gonna say the numbers game itself is kind of a joke because you could have like somebody blow up overnight, and all of a sudden they got like I don't know, 167,000 subscribers overnight, right? Off of one video. But who's to say that the quality of the next video is going to be the same? So all of a sudden you look up, they put out a video that bombs, they put out another video that bombs, so on and so forth. Even though they got like 167,000 subscribers, they only might have like, I don't know, 1,000 people that click on a video and watch it every day, or, you know, maybe even less than that. So it's always funny to me because, you know, the platform will look at that and say, oh, this person gets a platinum plaque. They got X amount of subscribers, but yet nobody's really following their content. But it's almost like they kind of grandfathered into the algorithm and put at the top simply because of the fact that they blew up overnight. But that's one thing that's always got me, man. And just throw that out there for the record, because I don't know why this is always a thing. It's not like we're sitting up here saying that we're trying to condemn white people or demonize all you know, all other races. For the record, the main thing is And I'll put it bluntly. I don't have a problem with white people. I do have a problem with racism,
Yeah.
especially if it's blatant and straightforward. And it's
Yeah,
like
it's a
Fred
great way
said,
to
it's
put
built
that.
into the system.
Right.
Yeah, that's a great way to put that. Like, this, like a lot of times too, people see when you're being like pro-black or pro, whatever particular cultural or racial group, people think it's like we hate everybody else, and that's definitely not the case. Black, white, brown, I just want to help people with understanding the basic rules and fundamental of firearm safety. I don't care who you are. Now, if you're disrespectful or you come across as kind of racist, then maybe not want to help you. But if you're generally just interested in firearms and want some help, most of us are here. We're going to help you. Regardless of what you look like, as long as you're being respectful. And I kind of do that same thing to the companies that I work with. Like, I'm more apt to work with the company that I met at, an event that is sponsored or kind of catered towards a certain community. Where if I was to meet someone that, something bigger that's not really, have a certain focus, because it's important to me to support companies that support our community. Like I'm definitely against anyone who's just here for the dollars. And I think sometimes with the social media in the two-way space, it can be kind of hard to tell the difference between someone who is genuinely trying to, they have a specific focus, they have something that they're trying to bring to the community, versus someone that's just like, man, such and such and such and such got 1 million followers. I bet they making all kind of money. So, then we end up with influencers who are here to just, for the entertainment aspect of it, which, that's not necessarily wrong. I like watching movies and I like to be entertained, but, in the two-way space, to me, there's just a fine line between, doing something for the gram, as we used to say back in the day, versus someone who's really just trying to, exert a positive influence.
Yeah,
Mm.
I think that's one of the biggest things, and that's one of the things that I see. I kind of got into it. I was in firearms training people and everything before I actually thought about being an instructor. Took people to the range all the time. We be out shooting, or family members, friends, and stuff, and they'd be like, "Man, you do this." They'd be like, "Man, you need to go to the range with me. Go and you teach them, you train them, show them some things." Wasn't collecting money for it. Just doing because, hey, this is what this is the knowledge and the background that I have. And I like to help people. To coming out here, and like, what? Let me go ahead and get this instructor certification. Mainly it's for the liability, for the liability and having that instructorship, behind your name, because it kind of helps, But man, when you see a lot of individuals out there just started, picking up guns and just start popping off stuff, one, as a black male, it don't look good. It don't look good. It doesn't help our image. There's a lot of stuff you see is unsafe, man. I watch some of these videos and just be cringing, man. Like, like what the hell? Like, like this shit ain't been taken down. Like, and it's like I couldn't do it. When Sergeant WarDawg asked me to come on and to co-host and to start, to try to play around with some, some of these training videos and stuff like that. And it's like, I've been sitting back looking at it, man. I see the same thing over and over and over. It's fools like, yeah, I got this new Glock so and so, check it out. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, that Glock so and so. It's like, one, you didn't show the product worth of shit. And two, it was like, yo, you ain't look down range. You got 1 million motherfuckers around you, and you just start blasting this shit off. It don't look good. And in my opinion, it makes it harder for us. So when you have two-way influencers saying, or not even just two-way influencers, any minority individual going to a range saying, yeah, we were out there shooting. It was several of us, and all of a sudden the cops rolled up and you know, and they started giving us problems. It's like, yo, everybody's being safe. Probably half the people there probably NRA or USCCA instructors. And but still, they had a cops call on them and everything. And not just because not because they're making noise, because it's several black individuals.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
they expect
I
it.
don't know. I don't always, and I try to be very careful, right? Because in some cases, as a black man living in the South, it's very easy to consider some, most of the things racist. A lot of the things that happen to us do seem to have a little bit of a racial undertone. But I try to be slow
Yeah.
to kind of categorize things in that way, because it becomes dangerous for me as a person, where I'm just constantly in this state where everybody is
Right.
trying to attack me because I'm black.
Yeah.
I try not to kind of get caught up in that mentality. Now,
Mhm.
sometimes it's just stupid shit. If you're at a
Right.
public
That's what I'm
range,
saying.
yeah, if you're at a
Welcome to
public
Atlanta.
range and you shooting these binary triggers and wide open triggers and all of these, I'd say borderline, legal, illegal things. And, someone, that's in the community that's near that range, and they're hearing loud booms that sound like
Yeah.
explosions, or, stuff
Sound
like
like a
that. They
shootout.
don't know. Right. They don't
Right.
know that, these are, people legitimately using the range for what it's for, versus, these black guys or this gang out here, shooting illegal guns.
Right.
But to
Yeah.
me, yeah, that's where you have to have that. We have to have that accountability within each other.
Mhm.
And it's kind of hard in the social media presence. People don't always take it as positive, as constructive criticism, when you just jumping on the post like, "Hey, bro, I think you forgot your safety glasses," or it can be something as simple as that. Like,
Right.
but like we were saying, like most of us have said, it's the algorithms pick up on the most, what we would consider like unsafe, not good practice, firearm safety practices. They pick up that stuff and they just run with it.
Yeah. And let
It's
me
almost like they're doing it
kind
on
of go back
purpose.
to
Yeah.
and let me kind of go back, and yeah, when I was saying, like the individuals, I was speaking to, like, not in general, because you definitely, you have to be careful. I'm one of the ones big on that, especially being, prior law enforcement and stuff like that. You have to look into a situation and say, hey, was it really racism? And yeah, it's not, you get a lot of guys together, you have to watch for it, and they rolled up on us and they said this, like, yo, what were y'all doing?
Right. Right.
Were you out there just blasting? Did you have a bunch of music in the background blasting and stuff like that? In the area you were in, yeah, I'm talking, mainly speaking about more, more specific, where, some guys are, it is, you get people just look out there and they see certain stuff, and, they may not understand, oh man, these individuals, what are they doing? But
Yeah.
you're definitely right. You're definitely right, Freak.
I think the other issue is the how the platforms has been kind of spearheaded politically, because they say that there's three branches of government. There's actually a fourth one. That's the media. So if you look at how Facebook has been in the news lately with all the stuff that's been going on, it might as well be a government website at this point. And the government more than likely is going to be able to control what you can consume and what you can watch, so on and so forth. That's why this whole TikTok ban has got a lot of politicians in a frenzy right now, and a lot of people in an uproar, because if it's a Chinese platform, that means that the American government can't control what gets put on it. So you will see, like, a lot of people put up some good videos as far as like firearm safety and whatnot, because it's almost like it's like the gold rush back then, man. You got people heading over there putting stuff up that is going to educate people, is going to entertain people, whatever. So what I'm getting at is, I think we just need to find a different platform, because Instagram, not only have the smaller producers been dealing with the issue as far as getting their videos pulled down, but even the larger companies like Strike Industries. I think Sig Sauer's got their stuff pulled down. I think Smith and I mean, I can name a lot of people. I've seen a lot of other gun content creators too. There's a lady over on Instagram. I think she goes by That Gun Chick. She's had her stuff shadow banned as well. And if you think about it, it's also because Instagram is a sub platform of Facebook, and Facebook is always pulling stuff down. If you do like some other people and go over to like locals and everything, because right now locals seems like it's kind of on the level, and I might start trying to put my stuff out there even more as well. You got an option to like have people view free stuff, and at the same time, you can get subscribers over there, almost like it's Patreon, and then you could have people subscribe to your more, let's say, more detailed stuff. So, like for example, if I was to put a video on YouTube showing how to field strip and clean, I don't know, a can of TP9, it's going to get taken down unless it was like put up 7 years ago.
But that's what's so weird though. When you look on like YouTube, there are some content that's out there that's like, it's like, hold on, is this supposed to be against the grain? Like, but then other videos, like you say, are getting pulled down. So for me specifically, trying to be adjustment, then go ahead.
You gotta look at the seniority of the video, if you will. Because I was able to find a video. What was the thing I got? Century Arms Centurion bullpup shotgun, right?
Mm-hmm.
It sounds really rare, and the oldest video I saw on that was like maybe several years old. That thing's so far back in the archives, I don't even think they're worried about it. But like, say for example, if somebody put up a video about a TTI Combat, the Canik TTI Combat. Now all of a sudden, YouTube's gonna be like, I gotta find this shit. They're gonna put out something on this video. It's gonna teach them how to put a brace on it and add a magazine and change the caliber and make it a fully automatic. Not quoting.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do. Right. Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do too with the aim or the focus of the channel. Mm-hmm. So if you're worried about if I won't say but if a channel is worried about being monetized, their focus in what they place and what they post is going to be a little bit different from someone who doesn't care.
Right.
Those that don't care, it doesn't matter. Like, yeah, I'll put this because, like I said, you can go on. Like you mentioned, Maverick 88. I got a Maverick 88 the end of last year, and I needed to know how to. Because I bought it used, so I wanted to know how to disassemble it and kind of clean it. And I found the video right on YouTube. It was several years old, but it was very complete, very detailed, and I was super surprised. But then, like you say, you go to find something that's more modern, like for say, a Glock, and then you try to find someone that's detailed, breaking down, you won't find it. Or it's very hard to find.
Yeah, but I think the other thing is like, because of how society's been going, you've got everybody calling everything a Glock. You could have a Smith & Wesson, it's a Glock. You could have a dang HK, it's a Glock. You could pick up a stick from the woods, it's a Glock. I mean, everything is a Glock, man. So yeah, it's like one of those key words that they're going to be looking for as far as what videos to try and ban on YouTube. So that's another issue you got to deal with. That's what I say, change the platform, because at this point, it's like it's already hard enough starting out from the ground up. But if you can't even move up from the ground because you keep getting pushed down, then it's going to kill your morale to keep doing videos or podcasts or whatever. So, having just one platform to put stuff on, you got to expand. And now I'm kind of at that point too. That's why I like my vocal podcast. But at the same time, I want to have something that if people want to click on it and watch it as a video, give them that option. But that's where it gets kind of hard, because you might be able to put it on locals, or I'm still trying to find another platform where I could do that without having too much of an issue. That's why this whole TikTok thing kind of sucks.
Yeah, there is another platform. I'm trying to find it. It's another social media platform. It's supposed to be real good, for the 2A community. Man, last time I looked up and I signed up for it, man, there was a lot of people on there.
Yeah, there's a bunch of different companies that are trying to make a social media platform that is going to be more accepting for us in the two-way space. The only problem with that is, a lot of these, just like as we're growing as content creators, they're growing as a platform. So a lot of times those newer ones just don't have the viewership quite yet to really make them a viable platform. But part of that is, one, finding them, and then us as content creators and content viewers, actually supporting those outlets. But
Yeah, that's
YouTube,
fertile soil.
Instagram, Facebook are so, they're TikTok, they're so big, it's almost like you can't you can't really avoid them. I've talked to some content creators who tried to find interesting ways to handle two-way content without always showing the gun, which
Yeah,
is kind of hard, but a lot of times it makes that's just the difference, or maybe they're showing the gun but they're not shooting the gun.
Right.
I
Sometimes
always
that makes a difference.
I always find it funny. It's like you can't even put a magazine in the mag well anymore. Like you're doing a YouTube video, it's almost like you got to blank it out like a softcore porn or something. You start moving the magazine towards the well, and then it puts up a blur, and then you go, and that's how you put it in. It's getting ridiculous at this point, man.
Yeah. Oh no,
And
man,
like even you can't even say certain words now without getting demonetized. Jeez.
Yeah, it's so important. Like, I mean, when you filling out your description can make or break your post. Because if you use the wrong words, it's gonna never hit. It's gonna never do well. But if you use the right word, keywords, the algorithm will pick up on that keyword, and there you go.
Yeah.
I want to add that I have come to personally realize and accept and will publicly say that people don't like seeing black people with guns. All right. Unless that individual is wearing an overt uniform, as in law enforcement, corrections, something where that person is in a uniform, most people don't like seeing black people with guns. And I didn't realize that. I didn't know that until I started interviewing these influencers that I have on the show, and until I went to SHOT Show and saw how things are myself. All right. I want to let you know I have a very, very bad taste in my mouth about people calling whenever blacks get together and shoot or have range days, them calling that militias or mobs or illegal gatherings. I have a real big problem with people trying to say that every little two-way event that we have where our people gather is viewed as some form of, like I said, militia or survivalist. They just try to categorize it in so many different ways that
Yeah.
aren't what people say they
Yeah,
are.
like
Now,
an anti something.
yeah. Now I wanted
Yeah,
to
for me, it's
explain.
just the unsafe. Like, it just seemed like that's the narrative. Oh, these black gun events are unsafe, and I mean, it's like, the ones that I've gone to, man, they treat safety just as well as any other gun event that I've been to. And in general, there are some non-black people that come to these events, and even though it's mainly a certain demographic, that's the thing that I'm seeing, is that they're trying to say that it's unsafe. I've seen that more than I've seen like the malicious stuff, like what you're saying.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But yeah,
Yeah.
it seems like, we're talking about like, social media, some videos getting hyped up and stuff. They may have a good video. But it does seem, if you see these patterns and stuff, it does seem like those ones that are getting pushed up, are the ones where they're depicting us more negatively than so positive. Because there are a ton of good, black instructors out there who are doing a lot of stuff. They're putting together good videos, but you don't see them. The only way you see them is if you go search for some of these names, or you're stuck in front of your phone or a computer and you're just, Googling gun videos, all day, and then you run across somebody and be like, huh, and they're doing everything right. They're being very safe, but then you'll go back and you'll see the ones where they're depicting us very negatively and they liked it. But as you
Yeah, and
say,
it's hundreds of thousands of
certain things,
views.
yeah,
Yeah.
media, the way media does, it likes to portray negativity because it broils negativity, you know.
Yeah.
So when they show that stuff, yeah, they're gonna get a lot of comments, man. That's unsafe as hell, Oh, they started a militia, blase, blase, and that is how it looks, and it's not good. It's not good in my opinion. It's not good for. I can't even myself personally. I just can't go out and just start blasting a bunch of stuff, looking unsafe. But at the same time, I have to think about that, and I'd be like, and I told Sergeant WarDawg this. We had this conversation. Sometimes, man, it's what get views though. It's what gets views. That's what a lot of people like.
Entertainment.
Is it really that they like to see it, or is it just the stuff that media is pushing up there? They see us out here, shooting stuff off, just being like, is that what they think of us? Loud,
no, because the thing is, not to cut you off, man. I'm sorry, but
no, go ahead.
You ever hear of Kalash Bash?
Clash Bash.
Yep.
Nah.
Like Kalashnikov, Kalash Bash.
Oh, yeah,
it was
AK. It's a big AK shoot.
Yep.
Mostly fully autos.
I think Brandon Herrera was the AK guy. He was one of the people that put that together, I believe. You also got, like, if you look at Grand Thumb and how most of his videos open up and everything, that's entertainment, So it's like, to put it bluntly, it's kind of like a double standard, but at the same time, you also have to look at how they're able to get to.
So these two individuals, who are they? Because I'm not familiar with any of them.
So Grand Thumb is he's got a YouTube channel that he does like a lot of stuff as far as like he'll experiment on guns. Like one of the things he did recently was he put down a bunch of rifles, got them all wet in the cold, see which one would function. Also, he'll cover like all sorts of other firearms. I think he did one based on the Halo battle rifle, which is pretty cool. But that's what he does. Brandon Herrera, he's actually another influencer who actually made a AK-50. He's in the process of making one. And he's a mainly like a kind of Soviet firearm supporter, but he's also a Second Amendment supporter to the point where he's actually gotten involved in politics to try and run for a certain spot in I think the Texas Senate or something. I can't remember, but that all came from his platform. Just like Grand Thumb doing whatever he's doing came from his platform. What I'm getting at is even Demolition Ranch. Demolition Ranch basically does the same thing as Black Rambo. The only difference is Black Rambo is Black Rambo. Demolition Ranch is Demolition Ranch. It's kind of the same thing, but the difference is the opposite side has more support, more algorithmic support as well. And there's also more of a network, because at the end of the day, the one thing I notice is you'll see crossovers and compilations between some of the channels I just named off, like Grand Thumb, Demolition Ranch, and Brandon Herrera, I think, have actually done videos together, just like a bunch of other guys. They've done videos together as well. There's that network there that actually not only helps their channel get promoted by the algorithm, but it helps other channels get promoted as well, because you weave together content. Now you got a stronger base, a stronger platform to actually keep going no matter what. And even if you have a channel that doesn't have any monetization, that's fine, because you got most people, they'll go and they'll say, hey, look, I'm shadow banned on YouTube, I'm shadow banned on Instagram, but if you follow me over here on Patreon, if you follow me over here on Locals, you'll see better content than what I put out on YouTube. And if you go to like what is it, Warrior Poet Society, right? Mm-hmm. They started off small. Ironically enough, they kind of started off the way we're doing right now. We got like 4 people on here. They got their viewers and everything. They teamed up. All of a sudden, you look up now. It was like after 2020, they got a full-blown network platform. you can download the damn thing and play it on
So
what is
you're
it called?
talking. So you're talking about the monetization of people videos and stuff like that to kind of build their platform.
I'm going beyond the monetization because they push past the monetization.
Yeah.
What they're doing is no matter what, they're working together
Right.
to put something together. You know, usually I could be wrong, but I can't really think off the top of my head, other than Guns Out TV. I really can't think off the top of my head of a black firearm channel that actually works in tandem with like several other black firearm channels.
Oh yeah. No. But I mean, what I was talking about was just how they they're more apt. A lot of these channels are more apt to push up a lot of the videos from black content creators and stuff that are showing a lot of unsafe content. But yeah, you're definitely right. That's a topic right there. As far as us and the way we. You can't. It is hard. It is really hard unless you kind of start out together. It's really hard. To kind of team up with other man. And I'm be honest with it, man. I hate to throw out things and say, black this, black that, but that's it's what we're talking about right now. But a lot of black content, we get together to talk, but rarely do you see them do things. You do have some, and they do the what do you call it? The range days and stuff. They be doing. They get out there and they do that. But it is hard to kind of link
sometimes it do feel like that crabs in the barrel.
Yeah.
Like everybody's afraid to work with the next person because they're gonna blow up before. Yeah. So just us. Yeah, just us like guys getting here together now is a positive turn.
Right.
In that respect. And kind of going back to what Yase said about comparing Black Rambo to Demolition Ranch. Like I've heard that conversation a few times in other places, and it's just like, yeah, they both make kind of similar content. To us in the 2A space, sometimes it does look a little sketchy. Now both of those gentlemen are doing what they feel in their personal beliefs as what is safe and not safe. And they're doing what they're doing, purposely. But it's just funny on one end, it's like Black Rambo gets demonized almost for some of that same type of content. Whereas Demolition Ranch is like, oh, it's okay, he's just some, kooky guy. But they're looking at Black Rambo like, oh, he's some dangerous menace to society. And it's just like, why is that? Like they're doing pretty much the exact same thing.
Right.
But one is okay and one is not. Yeah.
It's a double standard. Now, granted, I mean, as far as how he's portraying himself, I mean, would I want my image portrayed like that? No. But
you can't hold it.
Yeah.
No. I'm not saying that what either one of them is doing is right or wrong.
Right.
They have to decide for themselves what kind of content they want to put out. But for me, when you have two channels or two people doing the same thing, but one is demonized and one it seems okay. Like to me, that's the perfect example of what we may say racism in the 2A space. Now.
But it's that one that gets demonized. The one that gets demonized, that shows that negative portrayal of us. That's the one that gets all the views. That's the one that's getting pushed to the top. I'm be honest with you. I didn't get into social media until maybe like a year ago. Like seriously doing actually thinking about it. Putting my real name on these platforms and and actually playing around with videos and stuff like that. I ain't even care to sit down and watch it. I mean, everything I did in the 2A community was, man, I was basically born into it, since 2002, man. Marine Corps, law enforcement. I've been doing high risk security for 11 years. I lived it. There wasn't no put up a camera, gear up and start doing magazine changes and stuff like that's what I 24/7. That's everything. Everything I did was live, breathe, eat, and sleep it. That's what I did every day because
you didn't have to go on social
always
media
on
to
the
see
line.
it.
Yeah, I was always going out. So to sit down and look at and that's why I say some of these guys you name, man, with Sergeant WarDawg used to name out a lot of content. I'm like, man, I don't know who the hell that is. I don't. One of the things, like I just ain't care to watch. This is what I did. When you do certain things, you just don't really, dig into it like that. When I came home from overseas, man, I was probably gone like 7-8 months out of a year. When I came home, last thing I'm trying to do was sit in the front of a video, man. I was hanging out with the kids and the family, and, checking out this honeydew list that I never.
Man,
never got fully accomplished. So, but yeah, man.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, but I also look at it like this. I mean, they demonize Black Rambo, and end of the day, I think I'd much rather have a Black Rambo than like a Draco Wick John 237 or whatever, because at least Black Rambo may have some more experience and may be doing it safer than this other person who's randomly showing up on YouTube Shorts or whatever. And yeah, I mean, you got to give it time, man. You got to speak to your cell phone a little bit longer, so it can pick up what you like and then start tweaking your algorithm a little bit. That mess is creepy in itself. You might be over here talking about I don't know, bacon, since I brought that up first. But you might be talking about bacon. All of a sudden, you look up on YouTube, you're seeing 3,000 bacon commercials.
Right.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree that there is some racial undertones in the 2A space, but in my particular, face-to-face dealings, that was kind of part of what got me started. Here in Georgia, I would go to a lot of the gun shows and stuff like that, and I would see some of our brothers and sisters that are interested, but had no clue, and they may be in there and they may be doing things that that gun show community considers as taboo. Like, we come in the gun show, they, put the zip tie on your gun and clear it and all that kind of stuff. But then I would see our brothers and sisters still in there just waving the gun around with like reckless abandon. And, a lot of those non-Black vendors were looking at them crazy. And instead of just saying, hey, sir, ma'am, these are kind of like the root, like they just wouldn't say anything. And they would just look at them crazy and stuff like that. So that's what kind of inspired me so that I could be that person that's like, hey, you can come to me and ask me questions and it's not going to be any judgment, and I'm going to be here to help you, whether you're spending money or not. I've actually talked to vendors inside these gun shows and it's like, hey, I'm asking you legitimate questions and you're just like not interested. But as soon as it seems like, okay, I might be ready to pull my wallet out, now you want to hear everything I got to say.
Oh yeah.
But then you take my money and give me a gun and I walk away and I've had people literally say, hey, I just bought this firearm 10 minutes ago. I have no idea what to do with it. Can you help me?
Yeah.
And that's just kind of, that's not going to make me a whole lot of money, but that's just kind of what I'm here for, Hopefully eventually, it will turn into some kind of profitable, situation, but
yeah. That's just like the clothing companies and stuff like that, man. They target certain they target certain communities because they know that's who's spending money. So at a certain time they know where the money's gonna come from.
And
they watch it. I told Sergeant WarDawg this, man, before SHOT Show and stuff like that. Man. We went out and I was like, hey, man, anytime I go to a gun store, they hand me a gun. They'll be like, oh, okay, you looking okay? You want to check that out? And they hand it to me. The way I take it from them, the way I clear it out. Some of the first things that I do, the first thing that always come out of their mouth 9 times out of 10 is, oh man, you've done this before. We even had that SHOT Show, man. Glock. We was at the Glock range. Remember, I'm shooting with the guy. The guy leaned over and he said, man, it's nice to actually have somebody to shoot. You know, it's like, you know, there is a
Like the
portrayal.
expectations is different.
Yeah, there is
Like
an
they expect you to come
expectation.
in
And I
not
ain't saying
knowing
because
anything.
there's nothing. I'll be the first. There's nothing wrong with profiling. There's nothing wrong with profiling as long as you profile for a certain reason. But as soon as that reason, you have to take the time to kind of learn, like, okay, cool, everything, you know, I'm gonna get this person to try, I'm gonna talk to him. First, you mean, okay, cool, you know, he's saying like a good guy, you know, he don't seem like, you know, maybe how I would have thought he was walking up to him or something like that, just because he got dark skin. You know, you profile for look, we all do it. You know,
I think that's natural.
Anybody want to say we all do it, you know, but yeah, you know, when you go up, you know, you start handling the fine woman and stuff like that, then that perception should go away, you know. But it does make a difference. You know, I have ranges I go to where they're like, you want to be a member of this range. Here's the rules. They start laying out all the rules, and you know, somebody else can come up in there right behind me, and they be just as new as me.
Hold on, fellas. I'm gonna walk out of the screen for a second.
Okay, you
All
good?
right.
Actually, let me jump out and jump back in.
I gotta agree with that too, man, because I can name several ranges right now. You know, you got Stoddard's in Midtown, you got Autry's. You know, I had no issues with them whatsoever. I walk in there as a customer. I don't walk in there as a pre-profile black person, you know, versus like, I hate to say it, but it's a popular chain, but Adventure Outdoors in Atlanta. I rolled in there one day. I purchased some ammo, right? It was like, I think a couple of boxes of 9. And I also had this promo for like a free hat or whatever. It was something that they put on this website. I said, okay, cool. Why not? I'm going to try and start making videos anyway. I might as well start trying to, you know, provide some type of advertisement for more groups or whatever. You know, it was an issue getting a free hat. Even to the point where I'm like, you know what? Let me just go ahead and take my Canik magazines, take my 9mm ammo, and I don't give a damn about the free hat anymore. Because ultimately the question he asked was, "Is this your first time here?" And I told him it was my second time, and he said, "Well, I don't see why I would give you a free hat." And it was something that he had his people put up on this website. End of the day, it's like, if I got to go through that to get a free hat from you to advertise your business, then my future dealings with you are not going to go as smooth. You know, they're going to go just the same. So why am I going to go and try and buy firearms from you? And like Fred was saying, you know, we went to the NAGA National last year, right? They had several vendors. They had Canik, they had Smith & Wesson, they had Shadow Systems, they had Sig Sauer. And the thing I remember most about the Smith & Wesson booth was, like, I rolled over there and it was crickets. You know, I'm over there looking at the rack of guns they had. They had that new folding. I can't remember what it's called. It's like it's basically like they took the Kel-Tec Sub 2000, but like made it their own to where it would fold. And I'm over there looking at it. Somebody else is coming up to look at it too. I'm like, I'm going the full description about the thing. I'm like, yeah, this is better than the Kel-Tec. Crickets. It's like, now is your time to come up and start talking. But that was the coldest booth I went to. But yet, whenever we had the range day up at Stoddard's, dude, the SIG guys were wilding, man. They're like, they had a booth. They signed people up. They let people try all their firearms. There's no issues whatsoever. You could joke with them. They you know, they treat you like people. That's why at the end, I'm like, you know, hey, you know, they were taking their stuff back to their SUV, and I'm like, hey, y'all putting it in the wrong vehicle. Put it in this one. I'm over here pointing at mine. You know,
right.
It's those. Matter of fact, it's those moments that causes all this friction in the 2A community, because you've got the preconceived notions of, you know, like you said, oh, this person ain't gonna be able to handle this, or this person don't know what they're doing. But yet, whenever you approach somebody like that actual person, because number one, if I'm already in a range with you, that means that I'm trying to abide by the laws. So it's not like I'm showing up and I got like this janky Draco or whatever, you know, or like you know, the stereotypical revolver that's got the tape around it.
The high point.
Man, yeah.
High point tape.
Right, yeah, take the high point. You know, I'm not rolling in there like that. I'm here to learn. I'm here to protect myself, just like the other people that are there.
Mhm.
Or I'm here to enjoy a hobby or whatever. And I even heard that there was some drama at SHOT Show, man. But I don't know how that ended. Because from what I heard at SHOT Show, there was a veteran that got punched by another guy
Mhm.
to the point where I think it was the guy disabled. I can't remember everything. I think the guy was disabled. He was wearing a certain outfit. You know, he was cosplaying or something. And then the guy at one of the booths hit him, and it injured him somehow. I can't remember how. It either broke his arm or something. But
Yeah.
Broke his jaw.
you
Y'all
know,
talking about the
Yeah,
SHOT Show
incident
incident?
at Shell Show.
yeah.
I read it in the paper. I saw the video. The dude that posted the video and a bunch of other people that posted some stuff about the guy that hit him. I guess he had a long history of stuff, you know. So, but
Yeah.
you know, I didn't see it. You know, I didn't see it. But yeah, I definitely. Sergeant WarDawg brought that to my attention when we got back. And I thought, you hear about this? No, what's going on? I was out.
Yeah, that whole
at
incident
nighttime.
sounded crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be
But I
honest
think
with
that's
you.
just an example of, how things are changing a little bit. Because I don't think that type of mentality is going forward is going to be tolerated less and less, because as more of us come into the community, I think it's gonna naturally
You have to be
scare
accepted.
away a lot of that type of energy.
Yeah. It's just like crime. It's like
It could.
crime. You know, you got criminals rolling around your neighborhood and stuff like that. When they learn everybody's starting to stock guns and ammo, they ain't gonna be breaking nobody's doors. They ain't kicking in nobody's doors.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you
I-
eventually you're gonna have to be accepted. You know, accepting the fact
Yeah.
that, we're training, we're arming ourselves. People are training. People are becoming more trained. You know.
I hope that's a sentiment that's going to happen, man, because like we said earlier, it's weaved into the system. We're not even supposed to technically be exercising our Second Amendment right as Black people, but yet it's a right for everybody that's in America. So here we are doing it. One thing I definitely would mention is that you definitely got to watch out who okay. You got to watch out who you represent too, because I think there's a clothing company. It might be Nine Line Apparel or Brunch Style, one of them. But the dude that is actually the founder has some how to put it. Let's just say he's got some negative World War II affiliations and a couple of negative World War II tattoos.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I can't say it because the algorithm in YouTube don't want to get this video taken down, but needless to say, I wouldn't be wearing this stuff. And if you see anybody that looks like us wearing this stuff, you might want to have a word with them.
And see, that gets even more difficult because, a lot of times when we meet these companies as influencers and stuff, we don't meet them in the natural space where they're expressing themselves freely. A lot of times we're meeting them at these conventions, at these industry events.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes it can be hard to say, well, man, like, dog, did the owner, used to, whatever, you know what I mean? Like you never really know what's going on with these companies, but you just kind of have to go on how they treat us as individuals.
Everybody
because
there's
always something that's going to come up, and you never know, to say, oh man, this company, I've been working with this company for months, and then I find out that 10 years ago somebody said something or did something that I don't necessarily agree with, and then now it's like, man, do I just flush this relationship down the toilet because of some mistake they made back in the day?
But that's different, because like what I'm saying is this: you're saying that they say kind of like let's take the Kevin Hart incident and what that comment he said that got him kicked out of the Oscars, right? That was a comment.
Mm-hmm.
You might not be the same person, but as you are now versus as you were back then. What I'm saying is this dude has got markings on his body, multiple different types of World War II markings that represent his mentality. And there's no way in the world you can tell me his mentality changed. It's one thing, like, if you've, I guess, repented, and like, let's say you were in prison and you had to join a certain society, and in order to survive, and then you get out and you're like completely different or whatever. I mean, there might be a chance where I might look at you and say, okay, I guess I can trust you. I don't know, because there's always going to be that doubt there. But whenever you're proudly wearing it out in the open, like it's a badge of honor, a rite of passage. Yeah, that goes way beyond words, man. You're saying a lot more to me with your imagery than what you're saying with your mouth. So, and like I said, everybody's got paperwork, man. And somebody did a full takedown video of this dude, to the point where I'm like, yeah, I definitely ain't wearing those t-shirts. And I was actually, the designs, I was curious to, till I saw that. The internet is undefeated, man.
Some people can get that stuff taken off or covered up. You know, you don't feel like there's no anymore. Keep it covered up. You know. My personal opinion and views on it, man. Look, as long as they respect me, as long as they're respectful, hey, you know, certain stuff we can ride with. I got pretty thick skin. Certain stuff we can ride on, you know. But it's once you come to my face and once you show me, you show me that you have a problem, whether with words or with your actions. After that, man, look, now you ain't got to worry about me coming back around, you know.
Right. And I mean, it's so easy, man. A lot of times, like I've noticed in the city of Atlanta, there may be certain ranges or certain places that we used to go to where there wasn't a lot of our faces in the building. You know, it wasn't a lot of our face on the staff. And there was this feeling that this particular venue doesn't really prefer us to be here. Then fast forward to now, oh man, they got all kind of black employees, and it's like more black employees than it is any other culture in there. But their rules and regulations and things that they're doing are still seem kind of like they don't want us in there. You know, so you know, I take it all with a you know, like they say, like with a grain of salt, because you know, hiring a bunch of black people to mistreat black people, to me, is just as bad. You know.
At the same time, you know, you gotta sometimes you know, you gotta start small, you know, and it's been happening throughout history, you know, ever since, you know, slavery and stuff like that. Sometimes you gotta start small in order to change the culture, you know. So, you know, that's really, you know, with stuff like that, that's really all you can kind of look forward to and hope that, hey, you know, it starts with you all. Hey, but they have to understand it, like, yo, you know, y'all the first black employees they have. Hey, keep your shit sharp. Keep it sharp, you know, because y'all can make or break that influence, you know. And it goes with a lot of stuff, man. You know, we can't help the way that we're perceived, but we can help our perception, you know. So like people are gonna always look at anybody else, you know, and they're going to profile, you know, I have a problem with somebody. But as long as you keep yourself sharp and you make sure that you're on point, at the end of the day, hey, look, you know, your perception ain't changed, but it ain't been because of me. That's something internal that you have. You need to figure that out. But I know I'm doing everything right, you know. But hopefully that's what it's gonna become, you know. Eventually, maybe they have a black CEO. You know, you know, they got to change their culture.
That sounds like it might be like an old school Texaco thing, man. Because like, if you just got the people at the desk or whatever at the front and they can't progress any farther, I mean, honestly, I don't know if I can support that. You know, and if anything, it's a gimmick just to put me at ease. Like, oh, thank God, a black face. Okay, cool.
Right, and that's kind of what I was leaning towards. Like, you're just putting a black face, but I literally went to a range yesterday, and it was full of young black employees. These young black employees do kind of fit do kind of match what the customer base is, but they didn't have a lot of skill. Like they didn't have a lot of understanding about what the product really is. It's like, oh, you just hire a bunch of young black faces and that makes everything all right. Like, to me, that's not enough.
Right.
These employees still need to be educated. They need to be well informed. They need to have great customer service skills. You know, and
Well, hell
just
yes.
hiring a bunch of young black kids is not necessarily the answer. It may make more people feel comfortable, but are you really running a well organized business, or are you just throwing these black kids in front of us to make us feel more comfortable?
I think you asking too much for the customer service, man. I can't even get a good Wendy's burger without no issue. but I definitely understand what you're saying, man. But it kind of goes both ways, because if the company is giving you materials to learn, right? How much of an opportunity are you taking to study those materials? It's one thing if you like rolling in like, hey, I work at a gun shop, I work at a range. Okay, cool. So tell me about this Canik TTI Combat. It's a gun. It's the best Glock out there. Like, no, we got a problem now. Because obviously you ain't doing the research. But but regardless of like if you just there and you're not trying to learn your craft, I mean, you ain't gonna go far. And it's almost like as comparable to like McDonald's in the hood versus McDonald's in the suburbs. You're gonna see a majority of the same faces that of the population, which makes sense. Okay, cool, I can get it. But at the end of the day, if you're just hiring these people just as a token ship, if you will, you're not gonna get my business. Hell, I can go down to Atlanta Range and Ordnance right now and go shoot for like, I don't know, I think the longest I shot was like 4 or 5 hours down there one time. I came out from the range. The lady was like, "Oh my God, I forgot you were back there." That's how long I was back there. She didn't freak out. She said, "Okay, cool." Checked me out, kept it pushing. And that's an all-white range. I have no issues with them. They've got great customer service. Same as I can go down to Stoddard's in Midtown and get treated just like a common everyday citizen, no problem. And it's all black range. It's the professionalism is up to the business. And you stepped away for a minute, but I brought up Atlanta. What is it? Adventure Outdoors. I brought up that place. I will never go back to Adventure Outdoors because it's got that underlining of. It's got the underlying.
That
I hate to even
vibe,
say it, man. It's got the vibe.
Yeah, it's got that certain vibe. Yeah, man. Certain places that you go to just have that vibe, man. And
yeah, I could drive all the way because I could drive all the way from the south, go all the way up north to like towards Kennesaw and everything, to Georgia firing line. Have no issues whatsoever. That's mainly a white area up there. It's all about the business, man. And the Adventure Outdoors is a lot closer. Hell, I'll make the trek to Stoddard's a lot more times than I will Adventure Outdoors. I'll go to Autry's Firearms. Autry's is good too. I had no issues whatsoever. Treated everybody the same. But it's just, I think
for me, what I noticed. For me, what I noticed sometimes, not just the staff. Sometimes it's the building. Right, like certain ranges you go to on certain side of town, which is with most businesses. If you go this side of town, the business is really nice. Like you say, the McDonald's is really nice, the service nice, the bathrooms is new. You know what I mean? But then you go on the other side of town, you're paying the same price for the food. The service is bad. The restroom tore down. And I experienced a lot of that with these different ranges. Like, some of these ranges you go to where a lot of a certain community frequent, is very run down. You know what I mean? And then you go to another side of town and their range is super nice, and so, but that's just natural. You know what I mean? You can't make people reinvest into their businesses when they don't want to. But it's just that mentality that, on this side of town, they'll shoot over here with the targets falling down and paint is old and the lighting ain't that good. But, they keep, they're not making them put any more into it, So is that on us as the consumer to demand that, hey, man, if you want me to come in here and pay X amount of dollars every month to shoot, you need to make this facility nice. You know what I mean? Or do we go across town and stop supporting the one that's close to us, and then we don't have, then now we stuck going across town because there's nothing in our area that suits our needs. So it's definitely a delicate balance.
Well, at the end of the day, even though you may not own stock, the consumer is still an investor. And if you don't feel comfortable shooting on a nighttime range 24/7, you know, because they don't want to change the lights or whatever, then yeah, you got to do what you got to do. Because end of the day, if you accept that range being as it is, like all old and run down, now you start to toy around with safety. So if I'm toying around with safety and I'm accepting lower standards and I get shot because somebody couldn't see what they were doing, or, you know, something caused some freak accident to happen that could have been prevented had they done, you know, taken the proper maintenance of the facility, then yeah, I don't want to go there. Hell, and again, I've driven all the way from like let's say Camp Creek all the way to Kennesaw just to get some work done on a firearm, and I'll do it again too because it's the quality. It's sometimes you got to make that choice, man. But if I do agree, it's like you do want to have that centralized range. That's why I'll do a Stoddard's, or I'll do a Atlanta firing, what's called Atlanta firing range or whatever, you know, because it's not too far from me, and I haven't had any issues. But ironically enough, like I said, Adventure Outdoors is around the same time it takes me to get to the other ones, and I'll refuse to go back because the quality of the customer service, in my opinion, wasn't on point.
Yeah, while we're mentioning bad ranges, you know, and good ranges, I definitely want to give a shout out to the Vault, the Vault, and also, oh man, I can't even get it out right now. The Vault is in like the Smyrna, Marietta area, and then Quick Shots. There we go. Quick Shots is my home range. I use the one that's in Atlanta, and I use the one both in Buckhead as well sometimes. And those three locations are locations that I can vouch for personally, that I visited, that as an African American, I've never had any issues. It's nothing but respect. The ranges and the store fronts are always clean and very well maintained. And so if you're in the Atlanta area, the Vault and Quick Shots are two that I personally recommend.
Okay.
All right. That's what's up. Hey, fellas, I really appreciate y'all dropping as much knowledge, game, and perspective as you have. This has been a very dope episode. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been episode 116 of the WarDawg Trail for right now, which we're calling Brunch with the Bros. But this is where we touch on controversial topics such as the treatment of Black content creators in the 2A gun space. Hey, fellas, thank you so much. Have a good day the rest of your time. And thanks again for joining the show. I can't thank you enough. This has been fun.
You're welcome, bro. You're welcome, man. Thanks for having me.
Definitely, anytime.
All right.
All right. Take care now.